amazing place to live that it is, in the glorious, wonderful, beautiful nature that you've provided unto us. As we enter tonight's meeting, allow us to lead with diligence, dignity, and with the power of wisdom among our cohorts and constituents, that we can make the right decisions for our community moving forward. Thank you for your grace and mercy. We thank you for all the blessings of these daily lives and for the future to come. Thank you for our emergency and personnel workers and for their diligent time and efforts throughout all of our seasons, and especially in the busy times of year. This in your name we pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you all for coming. First of all, it's very important that we have community here to participate. Are there any changes, edits, additions to the agenda? Then do I hear a motion to adopt the agenda as posted?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then the agenda is approved as posted. As far as the mayor's communication, thank you all for coming again. It's good to see so many people out there. I just wanted to make a few comments about, we had an emergency in Lake Lure this last week, and it had to do with our lake and the sewer pipes and retaining wall, and I'm sure everyone knows all of those things about it. And I just wanted to compliment and thank the Public Works Department for the wonderful job that they did in identifying it so quickly and starting on the process to repair the problem. Can you not hear? Sorry, I have a really big mouth too. Can you hear me better now? Yeah. All righty, well, let me rephrase this because I want everyone to hear this. I just wanted to thank our Public Works Department and everyone who participated in resolving that problem. We know we have old infrastructure in this town. We have retaining walls that have been there forever and ever, and they maybe, have seen a better day. And so these things it's not unusual that they would happen, and we would not be surprised if it happened again, though we certainly are making every effort to identify those structures that might endanger any of our infrastructure. But they really did a sterling job. As always, when you look back on it, we can see a few things that we might change and do a little bit differently. And I think one of the things that I wanted to talk about tonight and that is our ability to communicate with everybody and to spread information about what's going on. And of course, actually, I'm going to let Laura say something right this minute about anyone who is not signed up. Thank you very much. I appreciate that very much. I think it's important. We're always going to keep to be adding new people, but it is important that everybody have the information about what's going on and is kept updated. So once again, I just want to thank everybody in the town who worked so hard to fix the problem. We have gotten a bad sort of press sometimes in the past over sewer leaks, and it's very important for us to make sure the right information is out there. So we will move on then to the town manager's communication.
Thank you. I'll start with public services. I won't dwell on what the mayor just said, but I have to concur with that. They did a great job with it. We have a company named Sinagro that they have been working to work with the wastewater treatment plant and to remove the sludge from the plant. It's probably the first time in about 15 years we've had this job done to the extent that it's been done. So we're hoping that we're going to see a lot of improvement in our processes moving forward in this. We also conducted inspections of the town's generators, and that has been completed. Moving to community development, we had 39 permits for the month of August as compared to 28 permits in July, 28 in numerous follow-ups. Of this, 13 were zoning, 4 lake structure, and 3 land disturbance permits. They also were working with Public Works and our project manager on the Town of Lake Lure projects ranging from Firefly water storage tank site maintenance to the removal of our condemned house on Tryon Bay Circle, which has now been completed as well. Moving forward onto fire and emergency, they had 58 fire, medical, and rescue calls, and the firefighters completed 354 hours of training for the month. For the police, they conducted 92 lake patrol hours of the date that they sent me this information. I do want to point out that officers continued working on their yearly required in-service training by the North Carolina Training and Standards Division. Every year they are required to take around 10 classes to stay up to date on the laws and other matters. Officer Caleb Oates received a Region C award after being nominated by Corporal Collins. Officer Oates provided life-saving care to an individual who had collapsed with a heart condition. Officer Oates continued to provide care until the medics reached the scene. Going forward into Parks, Recreation, and Lake, they had 804 volunteer hours, and according to what they put forth on here, they categorize that or kind of come up with $16,080 in equivalents and savings to the town because of those volunteers. And they have a particular, the Carolina Climbers Coalition had 2 work days on the Upper Boulders Trail in Buffalo Creek Park. This involved 73 volunteers just on that one place alone and represented 730 volunteer hours of the 804 I just mentioned. Moving forward to finance, the town continued to sustain a strong financial position with an unreconciled bank balance of approximately $9,043,345.33 for all funds other than special revenue funds or the DAM fund, which holds a balance of $16,500,000, as well as accumulated interest of $292,963.70, for a total balance of $16,792,963.70. Going to communication, Laura Creechy has reported that she had 25 news articles published with a reach of 2,020 citizens. The Town of Lake Lure has 19,936 followers on Facebook as of August 2023. This represents an 8% increase, or about 1,500 users over the same time last year. Let's see, she participated in the coordination of the Cycle and Sea event, the groundbreaking ceremony, and the Workforce Housing Forum, and the continued expanded written communication with 60% increase in website users. That's 20,306 in August of 2023 over 2022, as well as an 8% increase in Facebook followers. And then she had the completion of board videos, town board videos, which will help long-standing resources to help communicate the salient responsibilities and requirements of our future board members. For manager and clerk and admin summary, we continue to work with Ruby Collins and Labella Engineering on a new sewer system planning for the drawdown this coming winter. And then we also we're happy to get delivered one of our 2 drain valves for our project that's underway on the dam. Lastly, I'll report that we entered into an agreement with Enterprise Fleet Management for a new leasing program for vehicles and vehicle maintenance, and then initiated a space needs analysis study for the fire department with ADW Architects out of Charlotte, North Carolina. And that's it.
Thank you very much. We'll move on then to the council liaison reports and comments. Commissioner Doster?
Yes, ma'am. Zoning and planning met last month. They are still working toward definitions and to kind of put in some definitions regarding restaurants, bars, meaderies, things like that in our code. We don't really have those definitions defined. So we're working towards trying to make a little package that just lets us know where we can put what we need to put and what they can have. That's ongoing, probably take us another time or two before we have something to present to council. ABC Board met, as I said, I think last week, the auditor, or last month, the auditor was at the store, seemed very happy, was not there very long at all. And I guess in the world of auditing, that must be really good if they're there only a little while. I think it speaks to what's been going on there. Those guys have really stepped it up. We will have our audit in the September meeting. She will come to the meeting and present her findings. So we're all really, really positive about what we're gonna see. Just to let you know, sales over June for August were 3.7% higher, and gross profit was 8.7% higher. So we made some money. We are fully staffed, and also there will be several tastings coming up over the next couple of months, all from North Carolina distilleries. So be on the lookout for that, and that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Diorio.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Lake Advisory Board culminated this whole year's worth of work, actually, that culminated in the lake use regulation update that was just approved about 45 minutes ago. So I'll give you a recap, 2 big points for next year, and overall impact from last year's regulations. If I could, I'll just be brief on this. So good news from last year, the implementation of the licensing, the additional restrictions that we had for residential versus non-residential use on the lake, the cumulative effect of last year's lake use regulations was overwhelmingly positive. If you talk to our police, the enforcement wing, which they stepped up this year, amount of constituents that are out there, the number of phone calls I got for people doing untoward things on the lake significantly reduced this year, really had a big impact. So we took a look broadly to see if we could give back a little bit or where we could open up. 2 areas came to mind that have been approved. One was fishing. An unintended consequence with tightening up on access was that a bunch of fishermen that really fish in the beginning, early season or late season really doesn't impact the big congestion issue we have in the middle of the year, and they desire to have a little bit more access, particularly for non-residents. The second thing is Fish and Wildlife did a fish survey, and we found out that our bass are bigger, fatter, and happier than they've ever been before, which means that fishing is a good thing. So because of that, the recommendation, which is now approved, is that we reissue a fishing permit that allows for non-residents and residents to fish without any restrictions in the shoulder seasons before Memorial Day and after Labor Day, and during the night during the on-season. So that was a great concession. A lot of folks in the area would be happy about that, better for the environment, and we were able to do that. The second thing we looked at this year were non-motorized watercraft. The policy that we had, no one was really happy with. If you got your permits and you obeyed the ordinances, then you were kind of resentful of people that came and didn't even bother to get a permit. And if you visited, you really didn't think you should have to have a permit. Part of, I come here with my family, I shouldn't have to do that. No one was really happy. So we took a look at the impact and talked with our law enforcement wing, and we're able to eliminate non-motorized permits completely. And so next year, a little bit of a savings to us all as well. Unless you're a commercial livery, which we still want to keep tabs on that because they generate revenue from the use of the lake, they'll continue to need to have a non-motorized permit. But for vacation rentals and the general population, no more non-motorized permits. That's going to allow our police force to concentrate on the bigger safety issue with them, which is to get them out of the middle of the lake, without having to look at somebody with shorts on with no shirt and try to find a sticker on their paddleboard. So that's going to be better for them. So good news, those are approved. You'll see them instituted on January 1st. That concludes my comments.
Thank you.
BOA? BOA did meet normal course of business, nothing
Okay.
notable.
Great.
Thank you.
Mr. Proctor?
On September 7th, the Park and Rec Board met. First item on their agenda, or one of the first items, was talking about a proposal for the ABC, the old ABC store property. We had a very long, in-depth discussion about that. And at the end of that, I was the liaison, the Park and Rec Board passed a motion that the property to the left, or to the south of the ABC store, the Pool Creek Park, be taken out of the proposal, that the view shed would be protected as much as possible, and when extra parking was added, to make sure the traffic flow remained as good as it is now or better. Part of that discussion, certainly, that board did not want to do anything with the chapel, and that's not in the proposal, but certainly it made it plain that keeping the chapel there was something that we thought was appropriate. After that, as Hank talked about, the volunteer hours, the 804 volunteer hours is phenomenal, and not included in that number are all the volunteers. There's more than 40 volunteers at the Flowering Bridge. Those folks are gonna start keeping better tabs on their volunteer hours. It's a phenomenal amount of hours. There's gonna be a ribbon cutting for the Upper Boulder Trail, and that's gonna be on September 30th at 9:30. You may have noticed next door to this building, the pickleball and tennis courts are being resurfaced, which has been needed for a long time, and I'm happy to see that. The Flowering Bridge, they sold 42 bricks and made $7,000 from that went into their general fund. They're gonna have an online auction starting October 13th, ending October 22nd, to help raise money for their education building, and they've already raised $125,000 for their education part building, which here again is just volunteers and what folks help the town do. It can never be understated. We certainly appreciate what you folks do, and I don't think our town could function as well as it does without that. And that's my report.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming this evening. As a council liaison, I'd like to take the opportunity, we're coming in towards the end of season, and with such a large group here, I feel it's germane to let everyone know that annually we do have rotations of board members across these multiple boards that have just been spoken about as liaisons. Parks and Recreation, Planning and Zoning, Board of Adjustments, Lake Structures Appeals Board, the ABC Board, and the Lake Advisory Board. And if you're looking to get involved more with your community, these meetings are usually once a month. They take an hour or 2 hours of your time. Community input is highly valued by this council and by our local government officials here. And if you have any interest at all in joining those, we have applications online. You can also call us directly with our communications director or to our town clerk, and you can fill out your application. And those do stay on file for a long period of time. If you're not considered in that first rotation, it does stay on file for a future board nomination along the way. And we value your community's input, and for our neighbors, we appreciate everything that you do. And if you're willing to get involved, please take a consideration to fill out an application.
Thank you. And we do value everyone who puts in, it's a lot of time that people put in. We will now move on to item number 6, which is public comment. I would like to say that Olivia received a number of public comments by email for people who would not be here. Those will, of course, all be read into the minutes. We will move on then with our public comment. People who have signed up for public comment. If by any chance you came in after the sheet was brought from the back, you can certainly at the end come up and give a public comment. Just to review everyone sort of what the protocol is. Every person who would like to make a public comment is certainly welcome to. If you'll come up to the podium, I'll call the names of the people who have written them down here first. State your name and your address, and then you have 3 minutes in order to share with us what you'd like to share. If we don't limit it, of course, we'd be here till midnight, to be honest with you. Also, it is not a time actually for conversation, it is a time for you to make your comments. But there won't be any, once you've finished with your 3 minutes and your comments, then you just need to return to your seat. It's not a time for open conversation. And that, if you haven't done it, that's 3 minutes up there. So I'll have my phone on too, but just to give you a visual when you're up there, you can kind of look at it and see how much time you have going. I talk way more than ever I can fit into the time I'm allotted, I can tell you. So we'll just begin with the first person, Mr. Bob Mitchell.
Good evening. I'm Bob Mitchell. Address is 332 Snug Harbor Circle. And I appreciate the opportunity to voice a couple observations and ideas about the bear and garbage situation around. Number one, I realize the bears are much smarter and hungrier than I am. And number two, I could use some advice and help in keeping the area around our road and neighborhood a little bit more clean from the bears' garbage. I've had visits from the bears for both dinner and breakfast, and I've learned that maybe the best thing for me is to take my garbage home with me. I live full-time in Spartanburg, and I do visit the Bills Creek facility for recycling and garbage, and it's a magnificent facility. Spartanburg doesn't have anything quite as nice as that. But it's a little distance if you live on the south side of the lake. And I'm wondering about the possibility of placing a dumpster on the south side of the lake. A majority of the Bears' dinner comes from Ingalls, and Ingalls is a very popular place for people to visit, and I'm wondering with property in that area, the Ditmore Watts Park and the water tower property, if there might be some place that the county could put just a garbage dumpster where we could dump sacks of garbage when it isn't pickup day. And number two is that I've recognized that most of the repeat offending bears find dinner at the rental properties. And I wonder if we couldn't have a little more help from the leasing people and realtors who handle that. Maybe they could even convince the bears to move out to more rural areas. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you
Thank you
very
very
much. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I will tell you what, Dean Givens and I, a couple of years ago, got someone to come out from Wildlife, and some of y'all may have been there, both here and at Roaming Ball, and give some presentations on bears, and they said what you all have is not a bear problem, what you have is a garbage problem. So there's really no way to get rid of the bears, so if we keep that in mind, and I agree, by the way, with everything you said, those are good things to look into. Thank you very much. We'll move on then to Reverend Alex Hefner.
Good evening, council members. My name is Alex Hefner. I live at 297 Boys Camp Road, and I'm here to speak on regards to the Lakeside Chapel. And I definitely appreciate the report from the Parks and Rec Committee, and also from speaking with some of the members on the board, that we are indeed thankful that the Lakeside Chapel and the services are not in jeopardy. We all know that it's a unique experience for visitors to come and worship and be able to spend time in our local attractions and our local businesses. And I just want to thank you for making sure that the Lakeside Chapel continues.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And we always will. That's something, it's irrespective of any proposal, that's something that will always be preserved.
All right, thank you.
So it is always a little discouraging when so much misinformation goes out and people become, just misinformation. And so it's good to be able to set that straight. We appreciate that. John Moore?
Good afternoon. I'm John Moore. I live at 123 Firefly Cove. And first of all, I wanted to sincerely thank each and every one of you guys on town council because, believe me, I know firsthand what a commitment it is and how much time it takes to prepare for these meetings and to go over and do all the research you have to do to make an informed decision. And I know you guys are doing it, and I want you to know that I thank you sincerely, and I'm glad that I don't have to do it anymore. But I don't know anything about the proposals for the ABC store. I just heard about it recently, but I trust y'all to look at all the information and come up with the right decision. I know you will. I'm just here to remind everybody, to please not forget about our lakeside service that we have there. It's been going on for over 50 years, since way back in the 60s, from early in spring to late fall. We have a little service there in the parking lot at next to the old ABC store. We began setting up about 8:30. The service starts at 9. We're done at 9. The service will be over at 9:30, and we're done packing up, and everybody's gone by 9:45. And I want to emphasize that everyone is welcome. There's some folks here I hadn't seen at that service yet. But no one is excluded, safe place, and we do have a good time there. Some people come by boat or car, few people walk. It's very informal. Some of us bring our dogs. We put out chairs. Some folks bring their own chairs, or some folks like to sit in the car or the boat. We've had as many as 50 or more people there, plus the boats and few ducks and a lot of geese. We're always careful not to block the boat ramp for the folks who are using it, or to block the police access to their boats. And they come and go. The police come and go, and people use the ramp while we're having the service. It's never been a problem. And like I said initially, I really want to thank you guys. I know there's a lot of time and very little recompense. But we can all thank you and tell you how much we appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Very much. Helen Jones?
My name is Helen Jones, 123 Ridgeview Circle, and I'm not going to take long because I don't want to take up your time on the same subject over again. But I will just give you a little bit further back history. I moved here in 1970, and I used to drive the first showboat, the first business that has now become Lake Lure Tours today. But when we first did it, it was just one pontoon with some seats in there. And as we drove people out across the lake, we would get near where Dr. Birch's land was, and we would say, now we are riding over the former church. It was the old Whiteside Church, and people were so excited to know they were riding over the church. But one thing that our church considers, we are the history of Lake Lure, that we had to move when the lake came in, and now we are over there. We moved the graveyard and everything else. And actually, before that, there was a church for a short time over there near, it was, I forget what the name of it was, but it did not last too long, but it was near Pine Gables. But then what Lake Lure Baptist Church considers is that we are having a tourist ministry. That's the way it started. It has become much more of a ministry to people that live on the lake, people that come from homes around here, and we appreciate the fact that you let us have that, fondly known as Boat Church.
Boat Church. And we appreciate you all for doing it too, very much. So it's a mutual feeling. Barbara?
I'm Barbara Cersey, Barbara Marsh Cersey. I live over on 201 Havners Point, along with my two kids that have houses near me. But what I wanted to bring up today is that years ago when Lake Lure started, we all were just local people and our families were coming in from out of town. But now with the rental and so much tourists, the speed limit on the side streets of Lake Lure is scary. For one thing, I learned that the speed limit, unless posted, is 35 miles an hour. Now, on Havners Point, if you drove 35 miles an hour, you'd be flying over all the houses. And you look at Sunset Cove and those streets, there's no way you could go that fast. So I'm asking the town before next summer if we could address the speed limits on the Lake Lure town roads, like Havners Point. I don't know the ones over on near Jimmy Proctor, but some of those over there that are, small streets. And you can't really even pass on Havners Point, and then you got to dodge all the curves and all the streets. There's streets on Havners Point that comes into Havners Point, and there's no stop signs on them. So it's really scary. So what I'm asking the town to do is to address the speed limits on the Lake Lure side streets around. And I would appreciate that, but let me also thank you for the regulations you did, because the lake was at peace this summer. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Third thing is, keep in mind, this is from Nancy McNary, please keep in mind that we'd like to have a community center again sometime, and that liquor store would be a great one. Thank you, guys. We appreciate what you do. We love where we live. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cersey.
Tracy Kachkowski?
Hello, my name is Tracy Tchaikovsky, and I live at 139 Vance Place in Lake Lure, and I've lived here and been a resident for 17 years. And I'd like to thank the town council for the opportunity to comment on matters important to the community. And the specific reason I'm here today is to comment on the building lease proposal request for the former ABC building and the surrounding area, including Pool Creek Picnic Park and the parking lot and the mini chapel area in between the parking and the building. Now, in regard to the Lakeside Chapel, I understand now that that will be unaffected. And I just found that out. But I wanted to say that I'm a member of the Chimney Rock Baptist Church, and my husband and I and Pet have been attending service since 2014, and we really do consider it a treasured institution. It's a real beautiful experience. And so I'm happy that that's off the table. But regarding Pool Creek Picnic Park, as a proud citizen of the town of Lake Lure, I strongly feel we as a community need to protect and make available to our citizens and visitors as much green space and parkland as possible for recreation and outdoor activities. So I respectfully request that Pool Creek Picnic Park remain as is, and that is to say it remain a green space, public park for all to enjoy. And lastly, if the new business to lease out the former ABC building needs to be a commercial enterprise, I encourage town council to limit the commercial impact to the building alone. Please leave the surrounding area, including the parking lot, the waterfront, the chapel, the Pool Creek Picnic Park, untouched, as it is for all of our community residents and visitors to enjoy. And thank you very much for your time and attention. I'll leave it there.
Thank you very much. Doug Phillips?
Good evening. My name is Doug Phillips. I live on Crystal Road in Chimney Rock. Property adjoins Lake Lure. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. As the eighth generation descendant of two revolutionary soldiers who settled in this area, and also the great-grandson of the first man on top of Chimney Rock, I feel compelled to speak. What brings people to this area? Simply the beauty. The park area and Lakeside Chapel, as I know it's already been brought forward, but I'll finish up, is a perfectly accessible area for handicapped and for all to use freely. I think it should stay that way. Replacing it with food trucks in the park area would be totally wrong. They don't have the same commitment to the area as restaurants, the brick and mortar restaurants who pay taxes and wages more so than the food trucks would do. And I don't think that they're as sightly as the restaurants are themselves. The park and the Lakeside Chapel serve the needs of all. We need this park area and Lakeside Chapel stays as it stands. I've got one more point after this. Not only as elected officials, but on this subject, you're elected officials, but you're also stewards of the area. Please use the resources wisely. Lastly, the other lady touched on a moment of the speed issue. When you come into Lake Lure, the speed dropped to 25. If you were coming from down by Rutherford, it drops down to 25, and as soon as you get over by the Welcome Center, it rises again to 35 and drops when you hit Chimney Rock. And everybody just seems to, well, let's open up and see how fast we can go. There's never any police there, and the sound is horrific, and it reverberates between the mountains in the valley. My proposal would be drop the speed limit down where the Welcome Center is to the entrance of Chimney Rock and keep it uniform from there to there. Now, Chimney Rock has 20 miles an hour, but keeping it with that short burst of speed, you're gonna have more people walking with the trails in the summertime, and we don't want to have anybody getting run over, anything like that. And we don't wanna have it becoming a drag strip, which it kinda has. So with that, I'll finish up, and I wanna thank you for the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Well, thank you for bringing that to our attention. Debbie Warren?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Debbie Warren, 138 Yacht Island Drive, Lake Lure. And I'm going to turn my head a little bit, and because I want to thank some people. I chair the Lake Lure Olympiad Committee, and a few weeks ago, we had our 19th running of the Olympiad. And we had 107 volunteers from the Hickory Nut Gorge help. Rumbling Bald, Chimney Rock Management, Chimney Rock State Park Rangers, our fire and police departments, all of them, Bills Creek, Fairfield Mountains, Chimney Rock, Lake Lure. We couldn't have done it without all of the help we receive. We had 750 people participate in the activities who brought family with them. So it was a big draw to the community, as I know you're all aware. But I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to the many people. I hope I said Rumbling Bald because they host most of our events. Anyway, we couldn't do it without you, and so thank you so much, and get ready because next year's our 20th, and we're really looking forward to having everybody there. Thank you so much.
Dave Lusk?
I won't be long. I just want to thank the town for resurfacing Sunset Cove Road. They did a very good job. And also to Dean Lindsay and his crew that addressed the ditches with riprap, #1 rock and gravel. It's super. So, thank you.
Oh, great, good.
Thank you. You know, it is so nice here tonight. So many times people forget when they have good things to say about people. We forget that that's something that's important in public comments too, and we've had so much of that tonight. So really appreciate people making their feelings known. Susan Hafner?
My name is Susan Hefner, live at 297 Boys Camp Road. I'm a member of Chimney Rock Baptist Church and the sound operator at the Lakeside Chapel. Thank you for allowing me to share a concern regarding the RFP for the former ABC store and the adjacent property where the Lakeside Chapel is located. We all know that Lake Lure is unique in many ways. The three most obvious ways, and I'm going to crank this up here, is we're a dancing town. People from everywhere come to celebrate and dance. And in fact, I think it's this weekend they're coming to dance. Next, where else does a concrete bridge flower besides in Lake Lure? And last, not many mountains offer a beach, but especially one with all the Canada geese you would ever want to meet close in person. The town leadership throughout the years has enabled this uniqueness because you've realized the importance of offering a variety of restaurants, activities, and events for town visitors. Because you realize that not everyone owns a boat, but some people do. Not everyone wants to play pickleball, but some people do. Not everyone wants to walk on trails through the woods and the mountains with bears and coyotes and bobcats, but some people actually do. And not everyone wants to go to church while they're on vacation, but some people do. And each activity, event, or restaurant is unique in its own Lake Lure way. And the Lakeside Chapel is no exception. We have a unique location, a unique appearance, and a unique atmosphere. The Lord, the lake, and curiosity draws a crowd to our Lakeside Chapel. Our high attendance has been 65 with an average of about 41 from Memorial Day to Labor Day. About 20 of those persons are full-time residents, and the rest are part-time residents or visitors. This group gathers at 9 a.m. on Sunday morning in shorts and flip-flops. Some people occasionally arrive in a bathing suit because they're going out on the lake. Some arrive by boats, in convertibles, by motorcycles, by bicycles. Some walk in, but many do bring their four-legged friends. They enjoy standing and talking, sitting and looking, listening to music and to our pastor, and just being outside to worship the Lord and then leaving there and enjoying the rest of the day in the town. We have no issue with the town attempting to continue its uniqueness by considering other various activities and businesses in the area in which we are. And we trust that you do indeed follow the recommendation of the Parks and Board and allow the Lakeside Chapel to continue as is where it is. Thank you very much for your time.
Kathleen Hogg? Oh, I didn't need to sign that. Oh, okay. Scratch you out. Sometimes it's confusing on sign-in sheets and public comments.
We
I'll
just
tell you.
bought back 3 minutes.
Tim Garner?
Hi, my name is Allison Garner. My husband is Tim, but he's unable to stand, actually. I am here to appeal the citations that we received. We have a home at 121 Anglers Way.
This is different. Was that?
Yeah, there's an appeal coming up on the agenda, ma'am.
Okay.
That's the time then, so
Yeah.
sorry for the confusion.
That's okay.
Yeah. It's on the agenda, it's just coming up.
Right, you said Tim Garner, that's my
Yeah.
husband, I guess, so I don't know, we were on the agenda. If
We're
there's
good.
another
We're-
Tim
we're
Garner.
all good, all good.
We'll get,
It's
don't
on the
worry, we'll
agenda.
get to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Sonny Clark?
Hi, Sunny Clark at 137 Seawish Way. Hello, y'all. My concern is the rescinded proposal of the ABC store lease and the request to extend it into the Pool Creek Park. One of the things that really comes to mind for me is Don't you really want established restaurants to flourish in the community and not commuter food trucks to come in from other areas? A third thing that makes me think of is the diversity, and it makes my heart happy when I drive by there on weekends and we all experience and enjoy the park and the people that are grilling out there and playing games and sitting under those shade trees and that stuff. Are we taking away those grills? Are they now going to be expected to use the food trucks? It's quite a diverse crowd that really enjoys that area, and I personally love to see that. One of the things, food trucks really do not promote visitors to your area. They are a secondary. The first thing that usually promotes things to your area, well, lake, mountains, beach, hiking, kayaking. Let's throw in some pickleball. So those are the things that really help promote the things to the area. I feel like if there's anything that's going to extend into that beautiful, sweet little park, it should be, something that just beautifies it more instead of food trucks blocking views of the beautiful lake and everything. So on that note, I would also like to thank you very much for the pickleball courts and the resurfacing. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Deborah Gardner.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. What I'd like to speak about is a little bit different than what we've heard tonight. I'd like to talk about contracts. I assume that all contracts that are entered into by the town are accessible or need to be accessible to the public to review. And to that end, I would like to suggest that the next time the town website is updated, that we have a separate section directly leading that points to all the contracts, because I was struggling trying to find a contract, and I did reach somebody at the office and they sent me a copy, but it's not really easy to find contracts on the website. So that's my first recommendation. My second point that I would like to make pertains to the contract that was just recently signed with the town and Lake Lure Tours. I've only started to go through it. It's very large, very long, but just in the first couple of pages, I have some comments. And to this end, I'd also like to, I'm just sort of curious whether there's any policies, procedures in place that applies to all contracts entered into with the town with respect to length, rebidding, renewing, competitive nature at rebidding. With regard to the fact that the town just entered into or just extended Lake Lure Tours contract from 5 years to 10 years, to me is very concerning, particularly if it was not sent out for rebid, because we don't know whether the current contract is competitive or whether the town could make more money with somebody else. When I start going through the contract, two things that have already jumped out, and I've just started. I know that there's been a lot of discussion over the years about why isn't the beach open to town people after Labor Day. And I'm not really sure what the answer's ever been, but it's very clear in the contract, because it says here, the established hours of public admission, use of the beach shall be from 10 to 6 p.m. daily, Memorial Day through Labor Day. The beach will be open daily from 9 to 5 from 2 weeks after Labor Day until 1 week prior to the annual lake drawdown. Clearly, the beach is supposed to be open for use after Labor Day. The second comment that I have has to do with pricing. And in the contract, it says that the Lake Lure Tours agrees the prices charged for the merchandise, food, and services shall be comparable to those by the local market, and that it will honor the history and traditions of Lake Lure, etc. Why isn't gas in that list? we all know boat owners that go to fill up our gas tanks that Lake Lure Tours is gouging people with the price of gas. And a lot of us therefore buy gas tanks and we go to Ingalls and we bring it to the lake. And I just really wish that the town has some control over the prices set by Lake Lure Tours with regard to gas prices. Thank you very much for hearing me out.
Richard Green?
Good evening. I just wanted to say, I'm Richard Green. I'm at 155 Quail Cove Boulevard in Rumley-Bald Resort. And the reason I just wanted to say, I won't go into a lot of repeating things, but I just wanted to say I do agree with trying to maintain that park. And thank you for in the chapel, that's fantastic. And I think that when we're talking about bringing in outside, food trucks or whatever, I think we need to support local business. I've owned here for 28 years, and I live here now permanently as of last year. So I just want to see local business grow. I want to see it benefit those that are here. And I'm not against food trucks per se. I'm just against the idea of outside folks coming in when it's not benefiting our community. And I want to benefit the community. So that's really it. And I thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
As the last person who signed up, was there anyone else who didn't have an opportunity to sign up to make a public comment? Then we thank you very much. As always, we appreciate it, and we certainly have listened to what you said. We'll then move on to our consent agenda. And I have an opportunity to review the consent agenda. Are there any changes, edits, or do we hear a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Yeah. Madam Mayor, I make a motion we approve the consent agenda as written with the 3 outlined items on our agenda this evening.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Then the consent agenda is unanimously passed. There is no unfinished business. I guess our meeting was long enough last time to finish everything we had. We'll move on to our new business. Item A, hearing, request to appeal November 2023 and citations issued by the Community Development Department in relation to 121 Anglers Way.
That is me, finally. I do apologize for before. I agree with so many of these people, too. I actually grew up here in Lake Lure since all of my life. My parents were here in 1961. So a lot of these things this young lady was really right on a lot of it. But I'm here in regard to, I am Allison Layton. I go by Allie. I am here in regard to 121 Anglers Way, in which we've received, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, looks as if to be 5 violations and citations, one of which I was not even aware of. First of all, to even do this amendment, I'm to get this form from the office here and have it in writing. I went to do so, had my husband to go, you don't have the form to make an appeal. Not only is it not on the website and available, it's not available in the office either, as it states in my violation, if I want to appeal it. It must be in writing on the form obtained from the town. Not there. So regardless, we've gotten here. Our house burnt down February 13th of 2000. The town actually closed down in March for COVID. There was no way to get any permits to do anything. We have attempted to do so much for that home, and we have gone through 4 different people that have been with the sedimentation and such environmental control. We had Mike Williams to begin with. We then had Garrett Murphy, I believe, Then we had Mitchell Anderson, and now we have Rick Carpenter. This is the gentleman whom we received these citations from for $200 a day in regard to, I guess, really, it's kind of funny because Rick actually wanted us not to have the type of silk fencing that we had, which was DOT approved, but a different type of silk fencing. We have continued to come up here constantly, but actually my husband lost his right leg a year ago. So we were not able to come up. We hired people, we had to hire them from Winston-Salem to come and rebuild. We didn't want the property to look trashy and just sitting there and nothing to be done. We immediately started to get the everything out of there, the demolition to get done. We had to get people from all over. Many people will not come here because they do not want to deal with the town of Lake Lure. We couldn't hire them. We have done everything in compliance. The letters that I received said that we have been cited 4 times before for the same issue. Not true. I only had 1 violation that was on October the 1st, 2020, when we started our building. And actually, we learned from Mitchell Anderson how he wanted everything to be done, that we learned of the trout buffer. We were not aware of a trout buffer whatsoever. For crying out loud, there's no trout in the lake. They can't survive in our lake. Why we have that, I don't know. But the first 25 foot, we could not have anything on. So that's where the first violation came. No citation, though. There's been no time whatsoever that someone could not speak with my husband to get something done, such as we have now replaced all of our silk fencing with the steel posts that are now required. We've put drains in, we've dug ditches. The new road on Anglers Way has now actually put the water coming down to our property more than the old road. So many different things that have happened, that $200 a day, and for us to be able to correct all the different things to do in 10 days too. 10 days to do all of this. We couldn't even find somebody to do this work in 10 days. More or less, my husband sat here with his prosthetic on, working and trying to get this all completed. But because it wasn't done in 10 days, I'm getting fined $200 a day. I don't agree with this whatsoever. I think it's appalling. At least even on the first violation that we received and didn't know of the trout buffer, it was 30 days to do whatever it needed to be done. But I've never received any other one. There's only the one. And that was, like I said, October the 1st, 2020. And again, it was a violation, not a citation. I've never received any citations, nor have we ever ignored, nor not done anything that they wanted changed or done. Before, it was Mitchell told us to put the black tarp or plastic over whatever area that was not covered. Now it was no, we need this type of ground covering. So within these 10 days, it was not even possible to get these metal stakes from Red's Hardware, that they had to order them in, more or less any of the type of ground covering that they wanted done, as well as any of the work. 10 days. It's not heard of. Not in any town whatsoever. And I appeal these. I mean, these are just ridiculous. I mean, we've tried and tried and tried to do everything. And it just seems that getting hit with this was my last straw of even wanting to be here at Lake Lure any longer. So, I mean, I am basically done with it, but I do not feel that any of these $200 a day citations should be executed upon my husband and I. And like I said, he lost his leg. So for a year, we weren't able to personally be here, but we had to hire people. And again, we did, from Winston-Salem that came up here. But as far as this goes, this is not so. And I really want to know where the other 4 violations were, because we were not violated. I do understand that my husband found one that in May, he was given one in regard to the erosion control. And on all of this, there really hasn't even been a spoonful of sediment in the lake from our property. Now, yet on Anglers Way, there, at 153 Anglers Way, there was a boathouse built on less than 25 foot of property. And from what I've always known, and my parents purchased property here back in the 70s, you had to buy 100 foot to build on. But yet there's a boathouse on less than 25 foot on Anglers Way that went up. When I even made a comment in regard to it, and then I said that I wanted to come to a meeting with Mitchell, oh, well, they weren't doing it yet. And it had to wait and had to wait. I never got to see anyone. Before you knew it, it was already built. Now, how that can be done, I don't get it. Also, the town's water burst right down in our cove and damaged the property, which is 157 Anglers Way, I believe. They built new walls. None of them, not even the boathouse one, had any silk fencing whatsoever done. And when they put the bricks in for the other home down the way, the town did it, they didn't so much as even have a porta potty. So whoever you hired to rebuild the person's wall down there, they actually used our porta potty for all those months that were required to have there, and still do, by the way, at $100 a month. But the town didn't have any porta potty there at all for their own building for all that time. So our porta potty was used. We were charged double for those months because of the double the people that were using it, for one. And then two, like I said, there wasn't even so much as silk fencing put up. And this was actually the builders down the way that did this. The steps are this steep that go down. It wasn't even possible to put fencing up. But I feel that I can tell and say something about a boathouse that's being built on 25 foot of property, less than 25 foot, and nothing gets done. Not even a meeting could be done. And I asked for that through Mitchell. But now I can get cited for all of the things that we've actually been doing and tried to do appropriately. But, you know, each day, I mean, I understand what the rules and everything that's supposed to be done, and we've basically applied to all those rules and tried to do all of that. I do not feel that 10 days and not contacting them, everyone's different. That's the whole thing. With every single person, we've been told different things. These were DOT approved, silk fencing. Now, it has been times that, excuse me, I'm dry mouth by speaking so much, but that it has filled up on one area, but we had someone go and clean them out if we didn't go ourselves, and I cleaned them out. But this is just so much
Tom
that
Andrew,
it's
if you could,
too much.
Could we get a staff input?
Absolutely.
Mike, could you, or Rick, can you come up, please?
Ma'am, we got it, thank you. So, one thing I'd like to know, if you could address it, Rick, when you come up here, is the total number of fines and the total cost, if you would.
The total cost, we've got it back there, but the fines are usually $100,000.
go to.
Yeah, go to the podium, please.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
These are present site conditions.
Thank you.
The reason why the number increased every single time she received a citation is because each citation has to be treated as a separate violation, so the number would increase each time. When they got the original notification, or the notification that's being appealed here for 10 days, I had been speaking to them for over a year. Mitchell spoke to them prior to that. The code and state statute has not changed. We worked with them as much as humanly possible, and according to the state representatives, I probably gave them a bit more leniency than we ever should have. I mean, as far as inundation to the lake, you can see silt fences that are overhanging in a collapsed seawall. Silt fences were routinely installed incorrectly. They failed immediately, lost sediment, gravel. We did understand that they have unique personal circumstances, so we try to work with that as much as possible. But when it's flagrant violation, there's only so much I can do. The goal is not punishment, the goal is compliance. As you may know, any citation issued for the soil and sediment erosion control program, which is a state program, the town does not keep. It's not a zoning code violation. It's not any other civil citation that or criminal citation law enforcement may issue. We don't keep any of those monies, they go to the state. In this case, I did visit their house today in the middle of the pouring rain. Shoes are still soaked. Their new silt fence appears to be holding appropriately. It's still a mess. You can see in the photos that all the old failed silt fences, and there are numerous of them, and there's a few that you can't see because they're buried under the vines. They're still there, still present with the gravel and other elements that have been washed
So
out.
are they in compliance today?
No, no. The only real issue for me today is that they diverted water from the roadway. So when they cut the driveway in, it turned the water from the road down on the property because they cut the driveway. And, you know, water follows the path of least resistance. That was just inundating their site tremendously. And that was their big problem. So they cut a ditch perpendicular to the driveway. Well, that diverted water onto the neighbor. The issue now is that it's washing out an embankment, which is now very quickly becoming just mud and going on to the neighbor, which is a problem. It's not the most egregious problem we've ever encountered on the lake, but it's still a problem. So at this point today, even if the citations are waived by council, the notice of violation will still exist, and they'll still have to address that. And I spoke to them before the meeting. Well, it's not starting over again, I guess, but I did speak to them prior to the meeting, and they are formulating a plan. And plus, some of the original components from that notice of violation have not been addressed. So per state statute, when you cut a slope, whether it's a fill slope or a cut slope, you have X amount of days to stabilize it. And they have a couple of those that are lingering problems, and they have engaged, according to them, they've engaged engineers to help resolve that. I have not received a definitive timeline for the resolution of that, nor have I had any communication with an engineer yet. But they did tell me before this meeting today that that was forthcoming within the next week or so, that they'll reach out to me and we can figure out the best next steps. And part of the NOV was, you know, they had a derelict vehicle, a dump truck that was parked in the middle of the road too, and I think our fire department may have hit it at one point. They did move that out of the way. They moved it rather quickly. I think within 2 days of the first citation, maybe 3, somewhere in that ballpark. It got moved first, and then we worked through the silt fencing problem and everything else.
Any questions?
But the dump truck, that's not our fault, although we paid for that as well. It was stolen, and the Lake Lure Police Department had it stolen from them, so they have, the new.
Got it, ma'am. I've got a bigger question for you. Why is the property still not in compliance with the erosion control?
It should be in compliance. There should be anything that's.
We just
not in
received a
compliance.
report that it's not in compliance.
I understand that. I don't see anything that's not in compliance.
Okay.
Could you go with me and show me what's not in compliance? Because all silt fencing's been redone.
Okay.
And like I said, the dump truck got moved, but it doesn't run since it was stolen. And so the tow truck, I did that. We've tried everything to get that done.
Gotcha, got it,
As
ma'am.
far as all of the things to be in compliance, the old silt fencing, which
I got it, ma'am, thank you. I understand. Madam Mayor, I move that we defer any additional deliberation on this, and I would recommend that you get the property in compliance, get agreement that it's in compliance, and then we'll revisit it again, we'll review it to move forward. Understanding, now, we hear you, there's a number of things that are going on there, but until we get into compliance, it's really muddying the waters, and we really encourage you to get in compliance. I understand, ma'am.
Scott,
Yeah.
can you give a second? so we can move on?
Is that a motion?
Yeah, it's a motion.
That's a motion, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Then that motion carries.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Can we trim weeds that are on the 25-foot trout buffer, or we're not allowed to trim those weeds at all?
Ma'am,
You need to, yeah.
That's the trout buffer is a state
rule.
issue.
Yeah.
That's not
Can
us.
you not trim anything like the weeds that have grown on?
No,
The
you
Department of Natural Resources would have the trout buffer information. The NCDNR would be the best. They have all the guided outlines on there.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Rick. very
Thank you,
much.
Rick.
All right, we're gonna
Thank you,
move on
Allison.
to, item number B, ordinance number 23-0912, chapter 30, traffic and vehicles, article 3. Who is in charge of this?
Dana.
Dana.
Yeah, we had sent in this request because as law enforcement, we had an ordinance that wouldn't actually allow us to enforce our rule of no parking in like the boat trailer parking or where the vehicle charging ports are. And so we had rules that said you couldn't park there, but we couldn't actually enforce it or tow or anything like that. And so we just submitted to have that updated. And so there were 3 sections that were updated to just allow us to do just that. We could now enforce these policies.
We have good signage and all
Yeah.
that, because that's
We
always
have-
a.
yes,
I mean,
we
I've
have-
seen them, but I just want to,
Yeah, we have signage on like every parking spot in the boat trailer parking that says, boat trailer parking only, you will be towed. Yeah.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 23-09-12, chapter 30, traffic and vehicles, article 3, parking violations enforcement, section 30-57, stopping, standing, or parking prohibited in specified places, section 30-62, parking and use of electric vehicle charging stations, and section 30-63, penalties of the Town of Lake Lure Code of Ordinances.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Then ordinance number 23-09-12, chapter 30, passes unanimously. We'll move,
Thanks, Dana.
thank you, Dana. We'll
Thank you,
move
Dana.
to item C, consider approval of Advanced Data Network Solutions, AD&S updated agreement. Hank, oh, no, that's.
Steve Ford's gonna
Steve.
go over this.
Could you ask folks if they're having discussions to do it somewhere else?
Could we ask a favor, please? We're having difficulty with the discussions in the back taking place. If you could do them, either just step outside or wait till we're finished, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
This is just a follow-up from our work session, from our prior work session in August, and this is in regards to our contract with AD&S, who provides IT support, but they're also becoming a business enterprise, business solution, and this contract updates those services that they will provide from a professional standpoint, in terms of advising business solutions. And so I just submit that as a review, and just will answer any questions if you have any concerns about the contract itself.
I'm sorry, no.
Or it's basically a service agreement.
I think we discussed it pretty
I
fully.
mean,
Yes.
you're happy with who they are, you guys were.
Yes, and
you
I
guys
yield to
were-
Hank.
Yes.
All our
Thumbs up from
support
town
was
manager.
there that we
Okay.
were worried about
Yes,
originally.
it's been very good.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve Advanced Data Network Solutions AD&S update agreement.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Then the board unanimously approves of the Advanced Data Network Solutions updated agreement. We'll move on then to item D, resolution number 23-09-12A, appointing Hank Perkins as Deputy Finance Officer. Do you you want to speak to, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah,
or-
I can
Okay.
help Steve with this one. Steve is the finance officer. He is the only one that has the statutory authority to do certain things like, put his, what is it that we're doing, drawing a blank.
It's the local government where we pre-audit,
Pre-audit
pre-audit
statement.
that Mr.,
Right.
our attorney makes sure we have on every contract and
Yeah,
everything.
so sometimes what happens is, especially when we have a small staff, is when Mr. Ford is out and we have to have a contract that goes forward and that pre-audit statement needs to be placed upon a contract and executed, he's not here. So as the designation of myself as a deputy finance officer, I would then too would have the ability and the authority to put that pre-audit statement on there and sign it as well.
All right.
Okay.
Any
Yeah.
questions from the council?
No.
Do I hear a motion then?
None being presented, I'll recommend we adopt resolution number 23-09-12A, appointing Hank Perkins as Deputy Finance Officer.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then resolution number 23-09-12A, appointing Hank Perkins as Deputy Finance Officer is unanimously approved. And our last item is E, update regarding Lake Lure Tours proposal for the lease of the former ABC store property. And Hank, I believe that's,
Yes, everyone knows that's here this evening. We've had a lot of discussion about the proposal for the leasing of the ABC store, the former ABC store property. That proposal that was being considered was put in by Lake Lure Tours. After discussion and after meeting with the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, that proposal has been rescinded and is no longer on the table. We have a letter that's in your packet right now. As Lake Lure Tours has said, they're deliberating the potential alternative proposals and may adjust the rescinded proposal's financial and activity framework in order to maximize the benefit of our community. The long and the short of it is, the proposal that we've had before us has been rescinded.
there being no other business on the agenda, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Well, I was gonna
Oh.
state the criteria.
Oh, I beg your pardon,
Yeah,
I'm
so
sorry.
just to acknowledge, and thank you all for coming here. We know why most of you are here. So as we look at the ABC, it's become clear to us, and I'd like to just describe the next step that's going to go on with the ABC. So the window is still open for proposals, either adjustments on the old proposals or receiving new proposals. And we'll take a look at as we go forward. We've had some guiding principles as to the selection criteria for the proposals, and I'll talk about those briefly, and they've been updated based on your concerns, and I'll address that as well. So first and foremost, with that area, it's always been the intent of the town council to create an area with the facility itself and the surrounding area to provide additional activities that would benefit the community, we citizens in Lake Lure. Already, we've had, for instance, we've kind of shifted everyone that's launching a canoe and kayak over to that area. It's just one example of how we can make that kind of the central area for non-motorized to remove the congestion on the other side of Washburn Marina. I just think that that's kind of the thing that we're looking for, is an area that we can use and improve upon, because there hasn't been an investment over there in years. So that's one of the criteria. What is the greater benefit to the community? The second one, of course, is a financial question, which is really the basis for moving the ABC. We felt that that facility that was there, we weren't receiving as much value from that property as we could. So we're looking at bringing that to the next level. Of course, cash flow, big issue, town of Lake Lure, as we look at $200 million in liabilities in the future. So it is a little piece of it, but it is a selection criteria of how much money that we can generate from that property. And the third thing that's come to light, which is most important to acknowledge the concerns of the community, certainly protecting the chapel is high priority. I don't see any proposal or any future proposal that would interfere with that. That's absolutely clear. And by the way, please, commissioners, chime in on this. And the second thing is to preserve the park area there. Just so you know, there's some things that we can do to preserve that over there. You may not realize that whole piece of property over there isn't even zoned for a park, it's zoned commercial. And so we have to enter, that's law, And so we have to entertain those proposals. But one of the things we can do, going back to zoning and planning, is to make that general use and actually codify the park that's over there. Everyone knows it's a park, but it's one thing to have it there, it's another thing to protect it with law. And so we can certainly move in that direction. I'm hearing that, and I think we can get there. Food truck is something that's out there, that's off the table, it's been removed. And we'll keep that into consideration, but we hear that that's probably not a very popular thing to do with food trucks over there.
Amen.
But there's still, with that, I will have to tell you that we still have a food truck issue within the town. About a year ago, zoning and planning opened the aperture. There's a need to have food trucks for daily workers and things like that. We certainly don't want it to compete with brick and mortar. But what we're finding right now is that instead of having them kind of hodgepodge go everywhere, it makes sense that we have a dedicated area perhaps that they could go to, which has things like electrical power, so they don't have to run a generator and create fumes, and to have a wastewater collection facility so that stuff doesn't end up where it should not be. And so that still kind of makes sense. I think we're hearing that that area probably isn't the best place to do that, and that certainly will be taken into consideration. So that's the selection criteria going forward. If that influences what we have before us, we'll take a fresh look at this thing as it goes forward, but that's kind of where we are. And please chime in if you think there's something else that you may want to look at.
Well, one thing that came up during all this discussion is there's a town center master plan that, if you looked at this property we're talking about at the town center master plan, all the trees are cut down and there's an amphitheater put up.
Yeah.
The chapel's not there, and there's another building behind the ABC store. I think the town really needs to take a second look at this town center master plan, because the other thing that's on there is in the conceptual drawing, it's showing almost 300,000 extra square feet of commercial buildings, which I don't think is appropriate either.
Nor
So,
viable.
as we do planning for the future and as our comprehensive plan is coming towards the end of its time, I do think we need to relook at that.
Great.
Yeah, that comprehensive plan wraps up in 2027.
Yeah, we need to take a look.
It is far nigh in time, yeah. And that park space, it's commercial use, as I have been, informed.
Yeah.
But we can be rezoned. I'd like to task zoning and planning to
take a look at that?
take a look at that.
We can get that down.
100%. That whole park was gated off until 2014.
Yeah.
Nobody had access to it, and they tore the fencing down, and they tore the old bridge down that was no longer viable for public use, that went to the beach back then. It made sense back in the day.
Yep.
For the last 10 years, we have enjoyed public service space and waterfront park uses at a massive premium, and I will see no efforts on my end to see it change. None whatsoever. So, remain parkland.
Any other comments? In that case, there being no further business, do we hear a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll fight over that one. Good night.
Then we stand adjourned.
Thank you all very much.